In this video, I'm going to give you some hints, tips, and guidance around completing the Day 2 Mathematical Modeling College Characteristics. Throughout this part of the lesson, we want to ask ourselves, how might the relationships we see help prospective students make informed choices? So we're going to continue working with the data set that you saw in Day 1 and really think about the relationships that we might see. So take a minute and go ahead and answer this launch. You want to ask yourself, which of these characteristics might be related? How might those relationships appear in the data? And how might these relationships help prospective students make informed choices? So I'm just going to give you an example of how you might think about this. Which of these characteristics might be related? Okay, so the average cost of attendance could be related to the type of college. For example, or college ownership is really what and here's why. This is one relationship. How might those relationships appear in the data? Well, this relationship might appear in the data by, if it's a private school, it probably is going to cost more money. That's one relationship I might see in the data. So how might these relationships help prospective students make informed choices? A student who does not want to spend a lot of money might not choose a private school. This is one example. There are many, many other examples that you can look at and find relationships. So you can pause the video and take a minute or two to go ahead and answer these questions, and then we'll come back together to look at the Explore. Find another relationship. Okay, welcome back. So now we're going to look deeply again, and we're going to answer those questions listed here. What types of relationships do you see? What are examples of relationships that might be modeled in different ways? So before we look at the data set together in a moment, I'm just going to show you some examples of ways you can model data sets. Let me make this bigger so you can see it. So you might look at data in a two-way frequency table. This is an example of looking at the relationship between the sports played and the sex of the person playing it. So for example, we can see that football has the most males playing it and baseball has the most females playing it. Another data supply is a scatter plot. So you can plot the different values and look at the relationship. So for example, the relationship between study time and test score. If students studied for 1 hour, what was the test score they got? What is the relationship between these points? Another way to study data is to look at descriptive statistics. You might identify some key statistics about the data. Minimum, maximum, mean is the average. You can calculate the standard deviation using a calculator or the spreadsheets or the formula you might have learned in previous years. And you can create a descriptive statistics table for two different variables to kind of be able to compare them. Okay, so on the previous slide, for the Explore, we'll click the data set and we'll take a look at it. So you're going to look at your data set and you're going to go ahead and think about what are some relationships, what types of relationships do you see, and what are examples of relationships that might be modeled in different ways. So another relationship you might have seen is the relationship between median earnings and completion rate. You might make an inference that the higher the completion rate, the higher the median earnings. So for example, at Albright College, about 54% of students complete the school, and they make about graduate, and they make about $46,000. Look at Boston College. About 93% complete, and look how much money they're making there on average. So I'm starting to see, and even here, this is a higher completion rate and a higher salary. I'm seeing a relationship happening between the completion rate and the median earnings. That tells me maybe I can represent this in a scatter plot. Maybe I can represent this in a frequency table. Maybe I might calculate some descriptive statistics for each. I also might see a relationship between, and now we don't have the average SAT score for all of them, but I might see a relationship between the average SAT score and the median earnings. For example, if I have a higher SAT score, it probably means more students are completing the school and they're making more money. Look at Boston College. They have the highest SAT score here, and they have the highest median earnings and the highest completion rate. And there's a ton of data, but let's look down a little bit. This is a much lower SAT score. Look at their completion rate, look at their median earnings. Something to think about, that relationship. So you can go through here, you can identify some more relationships that you see, and then you can go ahead and explain some different statistical representations that you can use to model them. You might even choose to kind of just copy and paste, so you can highlight, you can even, like, if you want to just look at two, I can hide. Oops, so I'm going to click and highlight both of these, and then I can right click and just click hide. So let's say I only want to look at completion rate, and I only want to look at cost per year, and median SAT score. So then I'm going to hide these. So you're just highlighting the columns and then pressing hide. And now you can kind of see those relationships more clearly. And then to unhide them, you click here, you right click, and then you're going to press. There you go. You can click that little arrow, and that's going to unhide them again for you. Okay. And that's it. So in summary, take a look at the data and answer the questions on this Explore. When you're finished with that, I added this data supply displays in. You might then go ahead and just answer this summarized question.